Well, there's a girl at Trinity College, for example, who made confessions when I was in high school regarding her roles. Before that, in other words, every once in a while she would appear. In other words, and they were doing filming fake things, fake ties, fake natures of ties to me and other people in sequence ships. And they're putting predicate acts with facts, tricks into databases. And they're pretending emotions and passions tied to that with mayors, higher levels of politicians, uses of location slash S, additionally to the way the breaching method does. And it's relative to where people are syntax nature and they're jumping in online. They've been posting on comments on social media because of Facebook pages of the British Superior Court. The Facebook page of the British Superior Court, and then they made a whole bunch of them after that when I start talking about it. They're trying to adapt increasingly with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin. There's a guy who looks just like James Comey, former standing chairperson on the Racketeering Influence and Corrupt Organization Act. These are CNN sources with investigators next to Central Connecticut State University. A whole bunch of people on all sides of it tied to an O'Brien family with a Hartford police family and their roles with a promotion years ago when I was a little kid. They made a fake exception, telling me to know me, to tell me that, and the other things they communicate. It demonstrates, which is, in other words, all of a sudden out of nowhere he appeared. He wasn't even in my class. He was in another classroom. He was in my grade, but he's in another classroom. And he appeared and said his father's the police or whatever. And then it made no damn thing. And then he had a Mr. Johnson teacher made a face to me for no reason. They're making up fake things about behavior. These are people of the Leahy family that pretended I had conversations with them. These are people with the intelligence community next to Hartford Hospital and next to campuses in Hartford. There are people with the name Tomorrow and Clove that said they're relatives of a Sklora family. The Sklora family and people with the name Keene on and off the World Trade Center are involved with people on and off the world next to their neighbors, per their neighbors, and I can't get a response. These are people forging and switching names, which is also confirmation. Three or more officers confessed, reported, demonstrated, confirmed uses of roles with falsified police reports, with and uses of correct responses to instances to hide lie progressions and criminally foreign influence uses of themselves before that, and as roles with the crime scenes. They're preventing people free speech by stealing us to fake audio and video. They're fabricating audio and video transcripts with the other police forms. And the investigators are used remotely. So of course the investigations of complaints, things with them, they're putting fake things in there. So you have to get them. That's why we're supposed to have mandated law to be able to counter violence. They've been planting evidences also with private police forms. They have houses at the corner of corners on Griswold Street that I don't know. Whole bunch of people tied to them with confessions since I was a kid in demonstrations. Their roles with a Mark Violet and people on and off UConn and Trinity College with overt criminal enterprises and private ones, not legitimately with other countries. Many times the Mark Violet was influenced to repeat the name Maria Vizino to me. I never saw Maria Vizino on a Wethersfield campus in my life. And Stephen Stockwell, I never communicated with in my life. I never partook in the bullying of him by my neighbor and by Paul Zana, which looked like that was influenced bullying, because that's kind of how they would do tricks like that, influence from off campuses and on off campuses roles, because people have to put something in the database, and it's when people are speaking to them. With one of the girls, an Oliveri family, and I don't know the Olsen family. There's a Matt Olsen and Eric Olsen, and they try to use exceptions. Oh, well, what is this evidence you wrote on Facebook? They've been switching roles with they brought them up. That's why, in other words, And they have all sides in criminal case and civil cases, and victims advocates and victims as collusions, also with lawyers on both sides with additional motivation. Trantolo has the word government used criminally foreign influence to change people's words, and or tactically delusions wrought too, as roles as confirmation and demonstration of their roles with wire crimes with WFSB and with their sources interbranch, retired and standing. They have crime methods. If I tried to call them back and ask them again to do what's right, so I have to say this about them, that they would charge me with harassment and make it look like I had a conversation with them. I asked them to have the fake news fixed. They attached me to fake conversations with WFSP's investigators and Rocky Hill, on and off Elm Street in Rocky Hill and Elm Street in Wethersfield. I was only at Elm Street in Wethersfield one time um, before they graduated, or after, I don't know. Eric Oliveri was there. It was like, no, my good neighbor wasn't there. He's more my neighbor since they were kids. I don't know if the state judicial branch offices, people names next to it, involved with federal crimes with kids and with their conversations with my name with their teachers. And then they're asking people questions about that and connecting it. They're doing their roles with falsified police reports and the names and with all sides of criminal and civil cases. With criminally foreign influence using my names increasingly confessions and demonstrations of it. As people leading up to the World Trade Center attack in that context in Manhattan in the Ninth Circuit Court, also reported and demonstrably proven had been proven after the World Trade Center attack, right before the World Trade Center attack. In that context, there had been post-dating of documents from inside the court. And the same people further involved with that are involved for like with the name Scalora, with confessions in the past. When people were put in the context where every once in a while they would make confessions, demonstrations further to me about this. You know, the roles of other people. Like a Paul Zano. There's a Zano family and families along the Route 3 that have roles with federal crimes with evidences and criminally foreign influence uses of databases and with medical families and judges and prosecutors speaking fake things in audio or video transcripts, replacing them too and changing what's really recorded. That's why they have to change too what's actually typed. Facebook has some rules with criminally foreign influence uses of the word extremism where they have rules changing what I type. And so does the government with various natures of agencies and names involved. They have this on all sides of our houses and have it sustained where they use methods. They even put information through they start messing with the clients of people that went to school with them and stuff like that. One of the ones involved with a whole bunch of different natures of organized crime and federal evidences crimes and child abuses and people with the Dillon family are people involved with the buildings next to the state capitol, involved with identity theft, fraud, slander. A whole bunch of people on and off Town Line Drive and Hangdog Lane involved with various judges and prosecutors with identity theft, fraud, slander. Fake ties to me, fake natures and ties to me, increasingly tied to people from campuses I went and their roles with people from the campuses before, and I never had anything to do with them. All exception nature, they use that criminally foreign influence too, especially when they speak up online. They have the Wethersfield Police Facebook page involved with a whole bunch of people tied to the neighbors and people around and associated with Joshua Schuback. They recorded, confessed him, and he confirmed him involved. And then, in other words, I never had a conversation with his mother. They're spreading lies about me. These people within our Bryan family. The O'Brien family has roles with houses through time, and people. There's a guy who took a picture right when we took a corner. There's proof that's one of the private investigators. They're private investigators also with all sides in criminal and civil cases through time. And the pattern of that, which has been communicated to me too. They're attaching little kids and everyone around them, the fake words, fake ties to other people, fake natures of ties to other people. Rocky Hill campuses also have recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed ties to Luigi Guerrero and people in his family. I never had anything to do with them. They tried to make a fake exception with Rhode Island to pretend other, with their roles with former director of the FBI Robert Luskin and foreign and domestic military and people on off the World Trade Center and their neighbors, including victims. And I'm not going to, if you want to debate things, especially with passions and emotions, to defend people you don't know and get involved with other people's business. And then the ones that say they know me just because they were in my school. And all exceptions too. They use the privilege foreign influence. Even they switched, like, in other words, where they probably took me a picture of me with playing tennis one time with a burger, Yagman. He's not the one I had a class with, and I never had a conversation with it. Anything to do with Anthony Yagman. They tried to get me to buy acid one time. I did not buy acid from them. And their roles with, and I wasn't there when they filmed something with Eric Mendez. See, they're hiding what I caught them doing back then. They shouldn't have hid. And they said they recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed people increasingly sought me out to make confessions about Fred Guzet, who's one of the ones next to Wethersfield High School with people on all sides of it, all sides of the middle school. Whiting Forensics has someone who made a statement that said that the middle school is further involved with judges and prosecutors with Whiting Forensics and Sandy Hook's people and people with the courts of Connecticut that have been putting fake things in bed databases with them, including with medical families, with their patients and criminals and corrections families since before they got caught. Since they were kids, they had roles with predicate acts, with facts and backgrounds. So Ray Colo and Ray Cololo, Tim O'Brien, and Rick Cian Faglione used to hang around with each other. I had nothing to do with them in high school. Rick Cian Faglione attacked me from around the corner one time, and other people told me his name. That's how I knew his name. And there were people that were doing it. In other words, there was a Leahy. I found out later there was a Leahy family. I never met the guy. And when I was in there, I was forced in their presence before. They wrote down fake conversations with me, and about legal cases. They had roles when I was a kid with the federal criminals in them before they were caught. So a Leahy family has roles with federal evidences, crimes with people people that went to my schools with their parents involved with unions too. There's a John LaConch and there's a Dominic Labriato, and neighbors of a Dominic Labriato are involved with as the family members of probate court judges involved with their patients and criminals and themselves with intimate relationships where they use that for roles with identity theft, fraud, slanders, fake ties, and criminally influenced instances of knowing and uses of that as just with complete strangers too involved with it. Chris Walters also made recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. He's got roles with wire companies, with the Spada family, with Spada families. I had nothing to do with the Spada families. They have roles with probate judges and with Delafair families that are also involved with Connecticut Police Athletic League gyms and other gyms in Connecticut where they've been planting evidences with judges and prosecutors further involved with child offenders and uses of elderly home roles. And it's not legitimate uses of it by the military if that's what they're doing there. And these people, they have the translators and their teachers, criminally foreign influence. A whole bunch of people involved with a Dr. Shub. His wife is involved with probate courts and Hartford courts, where before I went to the school, before I met him, they were already recorded, confessed. And before the World Trade Center attack, Hartford courts, people associated with District Court of Connecticut in the Britain Superior Court had effective confessions to me that I already understood more than people understood, because there were others from my town who made confessions about that spot when I was a kid, and demonstrations of his roles with their roles, with the roles everyone with predicate, in other words, that are relevant with my subject, which is going to be everyone's subject, because I'm going to share it, everyone's going to understand it. It's what, in other words, how the breaching method implied natural differences, such as how we have black pupils and white survive, in exception to exception nature. It employed that tactically, it employed that meaning by systems, counter to it, meaning by systems, tactical theories, and not what is natural, also unnatural and self-defended, not realizing that nature would continually demonstrate that, not realizing that how that could be exploited by a human fact-checking nature breaching method. It's immediately observable, and when someone tries to say that science spoke for New York City, science that was anything other than criminal insidiousness nature as positive. Now, see, that needs to value wars, no, and the breaching method put that there for them. General President Grant said, there was never a time we needed to work. No, in other words, we have to address what our founders left us to blame slavery on and left us to show. In other words, they left us to use the hyper-evidential. If someone says that, if a book says, and someone, in other words, even if all three branches say, in other words, at locations they can't be honest about what the value of what their convictions are. Their tactical delusions are relative to other things others ourselves blame. For things like slavery, for things like great witch trials. Even if they were completely made up and regardless of who made them up, witch trials. They were about slavery. Everything's about slavery. When slavery is distinctly against one person. And our founders left us to demonstrate that method of slavery that was greater than and more finite than what the North and South were forced to fight about. As fact-checking nature slaves. Relative to how they would even have the motives to blame other things other than themselves, like our founders. And then, it's evidence. Oh, but that's all I knew. How good I know. And then want to talk about their motives. Let's just stay on the facts. And that's what forgiveness is for, so we can see through this, because they have the fake motives and emotions and passions with all communication with natures at locations. And or, in other words, they're messing how people get received by others by contributing to the intelligence community, discrediting good information. Before the World Trade Center attack, all investigators in their campuses, we know to an extent, we use criminally foreign influence. We could use it to do, observation, which correlation we could show. There are group ways too. There are still criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. People who had roles preventing mandated law while pretending other. People pretending passions and emotions begins crimes. They have rules of fact-checking nature-oriented predicate acts, used remotely pretending other, as collusions with on-off, half semi-on campuses, semi-off campuses, identity theft, fraud, slander, method roles. They're painting the real value nature progression, the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures. Increasingly blamed on other things other than themselves. Those are natures that increasingly have to self-value, tactically delusions, rot, tactically, criminally foreign influence, estimations by histories, meanings, and the value of them. It would not have left out how economic positions were enslaved. People that say the Civil War, people that pretend preemptively, are shown preemptively after pretending with passions and emotions, they believe that the Civil War was about slavery because they use that truth for a lie. And that's why we're not supposed to, that's what we're supposed to have understood how our founders and why our founders had to counter-extort the other founders. And then make them do things, then they would have been hurt and tricked, or where they would have been hurt and worse than, worse, everyone around them too. If they didn't continue to help our founders from that point. So they counter-extorted 13 positions in Wethersfield, Connecticut, right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War. But they had to leave slavery entrenched North and South signally distinctly. Fake logic experts, fake integrity of psychiatry, blaming other things, others, ourselves, even when correctly, for the real causes of the medical corruption at the time, for the legal corruption at the time. Increasingly that self-value because of remote uses of that, better than perfect, they never went away. So rather than admit the suburbs from here to Russia, from here across the globe, they're the same design, tactically denatured, that was involved with torturing, enslaving, and extorting sickly, distinctly our founders, some as Native American, see president/chief, and some as our founders, as we know, James Madison, Marbury versus Madison, the Constitution unabridged. That's what our founders told us when they were and how they were free. But that didn't pretend it was for other motivation, because everyone was being measured. Those laws were designed to hurt people and or to help them too simultaneously, where both of those were uses of criminal insidious natures of positive and negative. Used to hurt themselves and others and help themselves and others too. And then to have that left out. Oh, it's either this or that. Relativity is greater than and more finite than what these five identities of sequence nature. It is positive to them simultaneously or not. A criminal insidiousness nature could use a truth, something that is true, used for a lie, to screen a lie, for others to use as a lie. What are you going to say when you have to keep blaming other things other than yourselves for the real causes of slavery? It should be like that. People can understand what predicate acts is criminal insidiousness. They already heard criminal insidiousness, a positive treatment. Things that are only natural as criminal insidiousness. I'm not even a lawyer. So lawyers and all sides of criminal and civil cases, and victims advocates through time, have roles also with the Morgan Circle. I don't know, it looks like, does anyone know there's a Phil Cololo, a Bob Chase with a Whiting Forensics, has roles with a principal child offender, with federal evidences crimes with a Phil Cololo, with child abuses, and with planting evidences on off the kids' houses and their family members, attaching kids and their family members to fake and changed conversations with people that uses of the right to lie, where they don't have the right to lie. And criminally foreign influence readings of statutes that leave out exceptions in exception nature, while tactically delusions raw, and relative to where and to how they blame things are. In other words, how they get away with even pretending this integrity to logic is because we have descriptions of people's logic and names that are criminally foreign influence. They're fabricating whole conversations to hide their roles with a whole bunch of people associated with. In other words, there's a Dearborn Street in Newington involved with an Eric Jensen I don't know his family members and people near me that know him. And when I bring up people's names, in other words, I'm only trying to ever have peace. They're trying to coach people to roles with civil and criminal cases, with as people already involved with people of all sides in criminal and civil cases through time, planting evidences, and with victims and victims advocates in their schools. A whole bunch of people from Central Connecticut State University had been involved with child campuses, intercities through time, with names from the Britain Superior Court involved with them, and Hartford courts and Connecticut District Court involved with planting, predicate acts with facts, involved with the uses of investigations and of investigators criminally foreign influence, uses of databases criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, uses of the perspectives of themselves and all associated with them that way. So how can they pretend to integrity? They have other blame for what for what slavery was in North and South. That was really supposed to be blamed on. It's supposed to be blamed on the breaching method. The predicate acts with facts method /S, because now they're all roles. Now everyone has to tell on nature's demonstrating that. But that syntax and those demonstrations require showing what's demonstrated, what's simultaneous to the three branches of government, the exceptions tied to them like prisons, like fire departments, like the military, like the companies with the electronics, with their databases, that clean them. Their family members, the police. There are proofs. People from Sandy Hook implied that they were undercover police forms involved with Sandy Hook and or military and or mix, where how they have confessions of their roles with other military, with other intelligence community, with the Wethersfield police and FBI and other agencies and their family members, especially even on Facebook. Cheap punks of law. That's what we know, cheap punk, fake. That's what spoke for black and white. These are the names with the campuses and with the names next to the campuses in Hartford as the ones that in the background were fake things and fake ties in nature to top people and little predicate acts with facts tricks on the campuses and suburbs and private campuses, public and private. And they lie about their motivations. They set up people, and in other words, people don't, they're making little tricks with facts. They're setting up people that are already standing there, and then you arrive there, and they have the intelligence community, then they lie about how, they're putting little fake things. Oh, but no one's going to be able to deal with that, especially when they're in middle school. They don't even know those people, they're not even, in other words, never even saw them around middle school, they put me there. In other words, a whole bunch of people tied to a Joe tomorrow and background with the intelligence community intercity. And he said it was with the names around there with the intelligence community. That's what they're playing in the background. That's how they've been getting away with the Wethersfield Facebook page and the Britain Superior Court's Facebook page involved with red threads, involved with names switching and forging, sequence shifting, and falsified police reports with all sides as with names as roles with names with all sides in criminal and civil cases with worse tied to it with collusions with themselves again and with victims and victims advocates, people in the hallway, and people tied to the courts and the forensics locations. Whiting forensics increasingly has roles with wire crimes and digital ones with a principal upskirt nature's campus and people associated with it and with mayors. There's something to do with Wethersfield's election locations and people that have worked with them who have roles with this too. And they have they have houses on Church Street involved with a whole bunch of people tied to Mr. Neville in Vermont. His roles with Vermont with skiing and with investigators putting fake things in databases, roles out of things, theft, fraud. And with middle school, further with that whiting forensics, with their patients and criminals before they are caught, and tactical delusions raw, and with these other people. So the only people that have been the intelligence community has a whole bunch of people, influences over people that have been commenting in my posts. A whole bunch of people, and they all have comment too. They have recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed their roles with corners of streets and names associated with corners of streets all along Wells Road, Route 175, all along Main Street into that, and up to, and which is connected to Church Street too, and all the way in the conjunction, all the way from there to Central Connecticut State University in New Britain. It has something to do with the Joshua Schumacher, has roles with the intelligence community, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, rock, roles with identity, theft, fraud, slanders, little trick, fake exceptions, people with fire departments and medical campuses, tactically delusions, raw, criminally foreign influence, roles with this, and with the houses that businesses next to them, with overt criminal enterprises. I don't know if those are intelligence community or what, but they're training because they have Central Connecticut State University people in Britain increasingly have roles with names on Franklin Avenue in Hartford and Wethersfield Avenue who have overt wire crimes roles and fake things on Facebook with the interbrand switching and forging names too, preventing paper. The outside, what did you do? The outside my office right now. So Ron Adams, this is about things. The reports of real or not was involved with other natures of organized crime. People associated with reports of the shooting of Greg Kyler, and the timing of it was people on off Trinity College roles with predicate acts. There's an officer. He said his name is Darth Vader, who's involved with on off the parts of the campus, on off the library, with people involved with predicate acts, with facts and identity theft frauds at other campuses too through time. Also with former director of the FBI Robert Luskin and various natures of federal criminals before they were caught. People are like union. There are people involved with union stealing union money and things like that, like a John McConch. He's involved with Eric Jensen and people from Mobile Gas Station in Wethersfield and Rocky Hill, with families of judges involved also. That's they got the one at Town Line Drive, also with the sale of it, reported sale of it. There's a Tony DeMarco also reported, confirmed, demonstrated, confirmed, is involved with them also there, with through time with the Joe DeMarco and the John DeMarco, who said he worked there when I was in middle school, made confessions about their roles with people who went to my grammar school, with the mayors, and ones from years before that, a Mayor Gold, and people lived near a Mayor Gold, and an O'Brien family with the Hartford police forms years ago. And through time, they have roles reportedly with Congress building and the buildings next to it. They have people act, then someone takes a picture, and then they pretend they know you. There's a Casper family also. Casper families, and I don't know what his daughter's name was. But these are one of the coaches. They have coaches that repeat fake things of other people. They put truths for lies. They have where and how investigators in their campuses and everywhere they go are used to criminally foreign influence. One of the things that American history is about is how they use all locations /s. They also use all locations individually grouped together, multi-front, because they knew that nature was going to be demonstrating their own breaching method that way. They effectively employed those demonstrations, blamed on other things other than indoor on cells. So they've been attaching the kids and their family members to fake conversations. They have roles with readings of statutes where you can lie about the other candidates. They've been using that, including with unions, at corners of buildings, make fake exceptions of knowing people, and then do that again years later with little sequence rips. No, they have descriptions of the FBI has roles with Wethersfield police, state police, families, foreign and domestic, military, etc. With little tricks with facts, like little kids, and they have women judges roles, and they try to start a fight with little short kids, too. And then they have little goofball ones, the steroid type ones, and too. They're trying to set you up when you get arrested too. Fake. So in other words, you shouldn't have to beg for someone's name to get on paper. They have the people making conspiracy theories, the celebrities or the sports people. They're encouraging that because they don't follow mandated law. Because they have roles with their own kids with it. There are people with the name O'Neill with the police forms, with the Wethersfield police and the state police, and the Whiting forensics through time, who have roles with Saudi families. And I saw my Saudi friend over the phone. They hid what I caught them doing with the principal child offenders campus, with the Rocky Hill campuses, with Wethersfield campuses, Hartford campuses, with the same families, and one's tied to them. On off Valley Crest Street, they have roles with families with overt criminal enterprises and former director of the FBI, whether that's only because they're roles with training people, they have roles with wiretap acts methods of keeping the investigators use remotely criminally foreign influence because they record them saying and communicating things after they already recorded themselves saying and communicating to other. People from Covington Street and other parts of Central Connecticut State University recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed it was true. When I was in grammar school, people from Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, they had effective confessions to me right when I came around the door. I didn't understand the significance, but I remembered it. They know how to make people remember things. They know how to make people forget things. The same people that are supposed to be making them remember things correctly, they are maintenance to the physical delusions. To different natures of delusions they have in primitive foreign influence, fact, human nature, quality aspects of nature at the same time. And they've had that so long at formal locations, they have to pretend passions and emotions where they are being used remotely at other locations. Show needs to hide preemptively active group reasons, and increasingly, it's to hide from and to hurt correlation nature's actual means, and free speeches and sciences. So we have criminally foreign influence sciences that give the benefit of the doubt at the last second to people based on if their level of education, etc. Criminally foreign influence uses of that. They can't even put themselves on paper. I'll delineate their delusions from attack their criminally foreign influence, vacuum nature, quality aspects in nature. What do you want to know what my ceiling looks like? Ron Adams, I told you, why are you harassing me? Why don't you just get that cop on paper here? I told you the cops are further involved with this. And they're bringing up the people. I'm writing a map. The ones, John Maiano is one of the ones they brought up. And a red claw, when they brought the claw with a soldier who's involved with a whole bunch of other confessions from police, which is about how they switch names and forge names and fabricate falsified police reports and put an array of them in time and through time into the databases New Britain Superior Court has a whole bunch of people, and Hartford courts have a whole bunch of people who had roles planting evidences with names on my street through time, and then they did it at other locations. There are ties to it. New Covington Street, record people recording, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Also, its roles with Elm Street and Rocky Hill and Wethersfield with the names on my street involved with wire crimes with the Wethersfield police. They're lying about what's actually recorded. You're going to have Ed Powell on paper by Monday. Who's Ed Powell, Brown Adams? Who's Ed Powell? You said Powell before, too, and you brought up some other names. Ed Powell, is that Wethersfield Police? Ron Adams. Also, there are fire departments involved, and they have Russians involved. I had nothing to do with them. They're pretending passions and emotions. They're planting evidences with the fake exceptions, walk by me, etc. So, Ron Adams, make sure you get a response from the Wethersfield police and tell them about how you've been obstructing justice and how you were influenced to pretend I was a doctor and you've been using the police forms names. And you've been threatening me not to say anything about the what is recorded. You've been hiding the validity of what I said. I don't even know other than people that lived here before, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Also, there's a Perone family, people associated with a Perone family and a Kerr family, slash their families plural. A whole bunch of them involved with the Mark Violet and people involved with the intelligence community at those locations. A whole bunch of people along Route 3, non-verbally and verbally, but they recorded through time, involved with the intelligence community, with people in the past that took pictures near me and lied about what came before that, and how I knew them, and with people I don't know at all, like a Joshua Julian, further involved with the principal child abuser's Facebook page. And there are further upskirt pictures on Twitter associated with people that live near the Perone family and the families. And they're recording fast demonstrating confirmed they have roles with the buildings next to the Fox Connecticut News also. With the Kerr family also, Officer Jerry Miller recording fast demonstrating confirmed has roles on the different sides of my house with federal evidences crimes, with the people on the child offender registry. Wethersfield police reported, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. There's a police chief, Sim Trine, and there's also one or more years ago, I think there's one named Knapp or whatever that lives near Justin Leminskis. He's one of the ones with the intelligence community involved at Central Connecticut State University, and I only saw him one time, one quick exception at high school, and that was before we graduated. And never saw him on campus any other time, or his wife. His wife was one of the ones that was in my grammar school, and not, I never had a conversation, never saw her around. I didn't even know some of the people there. Former Mayor Gold's family and himself. He's been with men and women attaching little kids and their family members to fake and change conversations. They have criminally foreign influence conversations with my teachers behind my back. And they have roles with that, with people involved with news articles, where the news has been planting federal evidence as crimes, with retired and standing sources, interbranch sources they have on off their locations too. So, Ron Adams, make sure that you get the response, because they've been forging and switching names, and we're gonna write this map, because you guys, like the long, that's what we're doing, that's what this is about. You guys brought those streets up, you guys brought the corner of Main Street and Church Street with a whole bunch of people at Central Connecticut State University involved with crimes that predicate acts with facts, with mail and wire and databases names at other campuses. And then how would they do tricks with names because it's an identity theft fraud slander method. So Ron Adams, make sure you stop playing games with these Wethersfield police names. And make sure they get on paper too with the people, the rest of the people like the Schumacher family involved with the child offenders, identity thefts and frauds, federal evidence is crimes, demonstrated as confirmations of his roles with the Violet family, with Yukon families, retired and standing. You know, you're going to watch some sick people, foreign and domestic, with psychiatry and drugs and medicines. It has nothing to do with big pharma. And then even if you're right, they're going to change what you say. That's, and that's not a premise. The pharma has roles with this. Their advertisements with the networks, for example, they owe more money just through that because of their roles with the networks and their roles with the uses of, criminally foreign influence and tactically delusions, raw logic, which can be demonstrated, but they have roles switching names and forging names, and with mail crime, wire crime methods, planting evidences that way, changing evidences that way, as collusion / S increasingly. They have a whole bunch of different countries on campuses they've been playing these games with, where they're supposed to be integrated there or not. They have Los Solitos and other natures of criminal enterprises, reported, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with people with Wethersfield families on and off the Wethersfield town offices, with their Afghanistan leaders and their kids, and narratives by men and women, stuff like that, planting evidences with them. The criminally foreign influence, uses of the Wethersfield town offices through time, also involved, and buildings next to there, and names associated with it through time. And the people associated with the post office and next to it. I don't know the people tied to the Chris Walters. I only know him as a stranger seeking me out. The exception used criminally foreign influence increasingly with federal evidence as crime rules. Recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed by him even into an affidavit. Now these are Mendez police families also involved with these forms families also involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, fake conversations with me, fabricating police reports, wire crime roles, mail crime roles with child offenders, drugs and medicine crime with kids, foreign and domestic medical families, confirmations, demonstrations of that true, as perfect conversations with me, etc. Their roles with the hallway and people with the hallway of the court, of the British Superior Court through time, with child offenders, including sexual, medical, and judicial at the same time. Women judges switching names, forging names. Ron Adams, you better make sure you get this guy on paper with the officers that usually make it name the gig, and have them pick one name in sequence, get onto paper, and respond for how they have their confessions regarding how they only have one McGee, but they have three of them with three different falsified police reports, involved with a whole array of them. Even with those three ones, they made mistakes and had the people say that they made mistakes, made confessions about that at the police departments, and they switched names there of the arresting officers, fake old ties to people. And these are people involved with this since before the World Trade Center attack. So the Patriot Act, there are criminally foreign influence readings of that and draftings of it. These are people involved with the World Trade Center attack in Hartford Hospital with the investigations of that, criminally foreign influence, roles with it, cover-ups of it. With the businesses, there's the DeMorrow families and there's the ILOs with locations next to it, also involved with the networks names. And those names like Perone with on off but with journalists, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, and roles with identity theft, frauds, fake sources, criminally foreign influence, being prompted to it, the lawyers too, by their roles with retired and standing judges and prosecutors and their family members, like the Trantol and Trantola, pretending passions and emotions, pretending motivations other, pretending to be the fake ties and natures of ties to themselves and others, fake nature, in other words, changing what's said, simple conversation. Get them out the paper, fix the fake conversations in the WFSB. Let's go, clean it up. Let's get them on paper now. Pick one name and sequence with your interbrand sources and say sorry to the people about those things and respond to the principal's confessions. Make sure that they didn't pretend I have a word of conversation ever with Mike Levine or anyone to do with his family and the people on Route 3 associated with it and with the on-off town line drive locations involved. Because that was also brought up by the principal child abuser. And these Wethersfield police. Wethersfield police, Rocky Hill police, there's a Andrew O'Brien and Timothy O'Brien with other police forms mixed with the Wethersfield police, foreign and domestic military. They have roles with a principal that worked with Korea. They have roles with Koreans, people with Barks Hampstead, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with the people like a Violet family, people with the Yukon through time, planting evidence, sequence shifts, kids that aren't even in their class, identity theft, fraud, slanders, fake motivations, all exception, nature, and demonstration is the same thing. And I never had a conversation with Nick LaPera. They try to make fake exception off of Two Rod Highway because they make fake ties and nature the ties to me on off Two Rod Highway, Hang Dog Lane. A whole bunch of people tied to mayors and judges and their family members. Planting evidence is increasingly at that with people tied to that street. They have the corner of Knott Street and Walker Hill. A whole bunch of people that use my name through time with the intelligence committee, criminally foreign influence, rules of wire crimes with wire companies, with the intelligence community. In other words, also the neighbors of Chris Walters, like a Lombardo family, they're involved with the various natures of drugs and his syntax tied to that through time, changing the narratives towards that and bringing me into it as a stranger. I never had anything to do with the Joe Lombardo. There's a there's a place near where the Wethersfield police used to be. There used to be a Carvel there. There's a guy trying to make a fake exception with someone that was in one of the people. Intelligence community had people involved with 2 times I took a cooking class. They put people involved with that. Like a girl, I went there with her. It was weird. And I found out, in other words, she had something to do with with the intelligence community. They have the man and the woman with the intelligence community had roles like identity theft, fraud, slander, fake exceptions of knowing people, and ones that don't at all, and fake motivations for when they pretend passions and emotions. Increasingly, people tied to it, former Mayor Gold and his daughter pretending passions and emotions and do it from behind people's back and around corners and things like that. And that's how they leak things too. They're involved with they have roles with Millwoods Park and Parks in Hartford near Ilo's Chick Kitchen and the Morals Market, including in Rocky Hills, involved with wire crime roles with people and various natures of organized crime groups roles, including if they are only police unmarked with the gangs or with the military with them, because they have military police forging and switching names with KKK as KKK themed, Confederate flag theme and black theme. And then they were spreading lies about me to my family, my sister since I was a kid. I never had anything to do with my sister. In other words, he's part of this. They're attaching me to everyone around me. In other words, to fake conversation, fake tie nature, then they demonstrated. They have Connecticut boxing gyms, a whole bunch of people involved with federal evidence as crimes against me when I was growing up, and with their intimate ties and other people involved with their intimate relationships. Went out of their way to pretend to know me. And then they didn't even attach me to fake location, fake sequence relationships. Now these are the people with the news attaching me to fake conversations with themselves. These are people with the World Trade Center increasingly involved with Wethersfield, Connecticut, leaking their roles while they're being silenced too, and while there are roles of people typing on my social media through time, including Anthony Agnew is one of the ones further involved, and people associated with this Joshua Julian. Uh, and a Red Claw on YouTube, who also have on Facebook rules with a principal child abuser. They forced him as rules with other natures of federal evidence as crimes. He also brought up fake news predicate acts. You know, whether he realized they were news predicate acts or not, he brought them up knowing he was being a fake with them. He was pretending passions and emotions about some things the news wrote about my father years ago when it was federal criminals before they were proven, and then that was proven. And those are the ones that were pretending passions and emotions with the matters, kids, himself, and with the executive police forms like the O'Briens. The O'Briens and the Cloves have been using war crimes, identity theft, fraud, slanders, and fake motives and fantastic media fake locations with judges, family members. There are a whole bunch of people tied to a Jennifer Smith and, and a Kathy Tansey, and I had nothing to do with it. And Kathy Tansey, in other words, and then after they graduated, I see them there. They asked me to drive them to a stripper club, and they were at my neighbor's house, the Red Claw, the Wethersfield police brought up. I don't know if they said Red Claw or Claw. They said Claw, but Red Claw type psychedelics in here, which is one of the people who reported, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed roles with wire crimes with a Leahy family that is in a CN Faglione family, which he said a Ray Leahy family was involved with it. And right after he said that, I came home and the Flo family called me and asked me if I wanted to buy mushrooms. And he came over and showed me they look all fake and stuff. In other words, they've been doing this since I was a kid. They have a Marcello. I never met Marcello. He walked by me one time in the cafeteria. The Bruce they took a picture of that. He's involved with the EMS and people with the military involved with that land behind in West Hartford, near Normandy Heights, and those buildings and those things. They have the roles with Joseph Levinsky with foreign and domestic militaries, KKK themed, black themed military police roles with switching names with a Eastern States Narcotic Drug Task Force, also roles with child offenders, sexual and medical, tactical delusions, raw activity, have roles with a whole bunch of people at Hartford Hospital use criminally foreign influence. You think they have the integrity to think and then throw someone into a jail for pot before they did it? Let alone, they're trying to throw the kids away and hide the dealers because their roles making up that all that stuff in their fake motivation. The uses of the locations, like the locations next to the state capitol, the locations next to the schools, next to a CCSU magnet school on Franklin Avenue, are people, investigators, and their family members further involved with the policing of the campuses, how they train the interbranch, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, raw. Follow. So for make sure they get on paper. And say Sergeant to Judge Napolitano. And make sure you pick one name in sequence with them too. And get that Schumack family and his mother on paper with him. I want to know what they're talking about behind my back. And with their roles with the drugs and medicines crimes demonstrated by the people associated with them. I don't know if they know that, but that's what UConn has a whole bunch of people involved with Mayano family, involved with Violet families, involved with people next to the state capitol, military, men and women, too. Criminally foreign influence roles with all sides in criminal and civil cases, and with victims and victims advocates, roles of falsified police reports, criminally foreign influence, uses of arrest, uses of roles with the perpetrators, and what came before that with even worse, and what even worse, and what it's used for. They've been used remotely, criminally foreign influences for our founding, you know, the identities of the law and the overt criminal enterprises and the private ones at the same time, insidiousness of people A through Z with their logic. Follow mandated law. If you think that I'm wrong about this, pick one name in sequence. Don't pick, and respond. Who denies that they switch names and they have McGee, Officer McGee is one of the ones involved with this Ron Adams, different police names he brought up. Also, there's the FBI with the name Ian. Further, as a whole bunch of other, also even CIA family members involved on and off the campuses and with the names next to it, and on Facebook with their punk gangs. So it's a federal crime to say that you're um, an agency if you were not, especially while you're pretending to know people. A whole bunch of people involved with Joshua Julian have roles with federal crimes with some state police families and Wethersfield police families on my street through time, and with various state people that are involved with home break-ins and breaking into cars, and roles with the courts with that, and people on the state judicial branch offices. You know, how are they going to be about corrections? They're criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. Their family members are used criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. What they do in my name at boxing gyms with their little fakes in the background. Get them on paper. Get them on paper. See how they have roles with the criminal justice, people that work with criminal justice. They're planting fakes. They're fake integrity natures. What's going on? You guys are blaming the real cause of negative value nature progressions, acts and nature's worse, other things others and ourselves in every town and city. The suburbs were attacked in nature before our founders were born. Vaccine. I teach you things belong.